but unfortunately...
Welcome back. I'm Michael Toda, and you're watching Spotlight on the Arts. My guests tonight are Galt MacDermot and Tom O'Horgan. Galt, you, after Hair, you got involved with Two Gentlemen of Verona, and it starred a young Raul Julia.
Right.
What was that like working with him?
Oh, lovely. He was a very nice guy to work with, very talented, very funny.
Did you keep in touch with him
I did.
throughout the years?
Not a lot, but I used to see him from time to time.
And what about Diane Keaton, who had worked in Hair?
Well,
Diane was primarily in the chorus when she was one of the tribe when we first did it. And then when the lady who played Sheila left, she took over, and I guess she played it longer than anybody.
Did she?
I believe so, yeah. And she was always wonderful, so natural and real, and you know, this wonderful creature. And I've always thought she was a great actress and inside there. I loved her singing as well. It's very personable.
Any comments about Joe Papp? You worked with Joe Papp with these productions, Hair and Two Gentlemen.
Well, yeah. Most of the, in fact, the only things that I've done in New York that worked were produced by Joe Papp. He was, for me, a perfect producer because he was
amazing,
smart, and he appreciated. Well, first of all, he loved music, which was, you know, most producers don't even like it. But he loved music, and he loved theater, and he was great to work with.
Was he strong? I mean, was he like a tough guy, a tough producer? Or?
Not really. No, he really tried to psych it out and figure it out. I mean, when he wanted to do something, he'd do it.
Boy.
When he made a decision, he'd just go with it. But he wasn't a bully or anything like that.
So he didn't pull his weight, sort of.
Well, he did, but when he did, it was for a good reason.
And now Via Galactica. Well, that sort of ran into some problems. Was
major problems. Well, I mean, the problem. It didn't work. But it was an interesting show. It was like a cowboy version of, you know, pioneering into outer space. That's how I saw it. I saw it as a country western show where we would go into outer space, but it never fell out that way, really.
As Raul Julia was
he was in that too, yeah.
Involved with that as well.
It's strange. I think it was just a little before its time because all the whole space thing really.
It was, but there were other things. It wasn't really loose enough, relaxed enough, you know, to. There were some other good people. There was who was that girl that was in that went on to do other things? I forgot her name.
Tom, you had directed a film version of Eugene Ionesco's Rhinoceros.
Rhinoceros, yes.
And you know, you want to talk about the.
Well, one of my favorite movies of all time was The Producers, and much to the chagrin of Eli Landau, who was the producer of this movie, I thought it would be great to get those two guys together, that's Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel. Zero Mostel, of course, is one of the great theater geniuses of all time. Almost impossible to capture, because he never, well, you know, when you do a film, it takes about maybe 6 takes before you, it's not the actors, it's all lights and tech, you know, to get it together. By that time, he's out on someplace else. So you'd have to try to trick him into being, you know, fresh at that moment. And, I remember once Gene Wilder said, I have this idea for this moment, but I'm going to not do it until about the 4th take. Otherwise, Zero will find a way to screw it up, just for meanness. But he was just great.
So they really worked well together.
Oh yeah, they played off of each other, and of course that you have in that piece where Zero transforms into a rhinoceros without any makeup or any prosthesis or any of the sort. He just does it, and it's outrageous. I mean, I don't think anybody ever got him, or it's just the opportunity to have that with him.
Now, was he was blacklisted during the McCarthy era. Did that reflect on his life? I mean, did he carry that with him once he started working again?
Well, I think that was over with, you know, and he got back into film and it was fine, and theater and so forth. But you know, those are the kind of things that you never get over. You know, it's just difficult.
And Lenny Bruce.
There's another one. Yeah, I played with Lenny when before I did theater. I was always in theater, but before I did the directing aspect, I played the harp and sang and said weird things, you know. And so I worked with Lenny in a number of clubs and, around the country, and that was an extraordinary experience because Lenny was an amazing talent.
Well, what was he? I mean, they call him sort of the man who started, the father sort of the modern day stand-up comic. You know, where he started to tell stories about life, and that was really, you know.
Well, he was always told. It was always said that he improvised a lot. He didn't really. He said he improvised maybe 10% each evening, but he just had such a free-flowing mind, and he got into areas and subjects that nobody ever touched, and always had a funny, you know, turn on it. The major problem with Lenny was that by the time he really got there, he was defending himself so much because he was politically incorrect in many ways, you know.
Well, speaking of politically incorrect, you know, a lot of the shows that you've been involved with in Hair have been sort of experimental pieces and a lot of newfound ideas and a lot of things that shocked audiences and Superstar. I mean, a lot of stuff I read in Superstar, how that it brought on, you know, how Herod was a transvestite, and this, you know, brought up a lot of
he
different
was.
But, you know, in the 60s, that could have been considered something new and something avant-garde, and now today it seems like you wouldn't possibly get away with that. The conservative tide has sort of rolled in, and
Well, even then, I mean, there were people picketing Superstar out in front of the Hellinger Theater. People who had never seen the play, they just objected to the title.
Really?
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but at Hair as well, there seems to be a turn now in politics, and you know, have your views changed in terms politically, where you were part of something extraordinary back then, and then maybe, you know, you've gotten sort of conservative. Have your views changed? Or do you agree with this politically correct?
No. I think, you know, I think you get maybe more clever in your evading the slings and arrows, but I mean, the point is that I think I'm deeper into that politics than I ever was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I really thought much about it at the time. It was the way we breathed in those days. Now it's a little different, but I think that this is a time for people to really be concerned about politics and what's going on.
Galt?
Well, I would say the same thing. I don't quite know what politically correct means. I mean, in terms of in terms of politics, but
Well, an example of politically correct is when I was house managing, they sort of started seminars that would sort of say, well, you can't say handicapped anymore, it's physically impaired, and somebody is...
no, I understand that, but I don't understand why that is. I mean, it's not a conservative thing. It's like trying to, they're trying to sort of solidify liberal views and make them correct. And yet this is the most conservative time I've ever heard of. So I don't know. There seems to be a conflict.
Well, you know, I think that one of the things, this is not the world we were born into. It's completely different. I was in Israel in November, and we were doing a trip around the country, and we were in Jericho, and then we were driving back to Jerusalem, and there's these wonderful hills, and it was becoming dusk, and there were these Bedouin tents blowing in the wind, and it was amazing looking. I was just saying, wow, these people. And so I would come around one corner, I see this Bedouin tent, and it had something glowing in it. And we came closer, I saw it was a television set. So, I mean, things aren't what they were, and people, you just can't say something anymore without it having reverberations all over the world about what you're saying. I think that everybody all over the world, and that guy who's standing, you know, knee-deep in yak dung in Micronesia or someplace, knows all about O.J. Simpson, you know, which is, so therefore the business of being politically correct, if you are sponsored, if you're getting your money to do this thing, the reverberation is so strong that you have to in a theater like that, in order to get their amount of revenue to put on their shows, they could not say something that would offend them. You know, it's just
It's really not politically correct. It's just it's economically correct.
expedient.
Yeah.
So it's for votes. it's
what?
you know, well, I mean, I guess what you're saying is that it's for votes. I mean, if the
No, I don't think it's for votes. It's for support. It's for basically
Existence.
corporate support. Well, unless you consider corporations our new government, which they basically are. So we have to.
Careful.
Why should I be careful? This is a private station. Isn't this a private? Oh, this is a commercial station. Well, you see, there you go.
well, on that note, we'll break with some commercial messages, and we'll be back to continue with this interview with Tom Mahorgan and Galt MacDermot. Stay tuned.
I got